I'm going to spell out Garden of Eden on a grid with these because these are pages from the Bible. So it's sort of giving back to what the Garden of Eden was, because we talk about the snake all the time, but there must have been roses in it. They're not real easy. It looks like it's easy, but it's hard on my hands. Two ways of looking at it. How many of us actually read it anymore? It's sort of like the yellow pages. We have it, but we don't use them. And yet it's one of the most important books probably in the United States. Most people have a Bible.
Okay, we're back. My first guest tonight. My first guest is often referred to as the Lint Lady. Why, you ask? Because she makes sculptures out of lint. Would you welcome Slater Barron?
I find it's really hard to keep track of all the work that I've done. About 40 years worth of art, and being very prolific, it's really difficult to keep track of all the pictures. Some pictures better than others. Some pictures of work that I've almost forgotten I did. Some of these are close-ups of lint portraits that were in a show. These are the portraits of my mother. The installation, black and white pictures. This figure of my mother is part of a very large installation that I've never shown. My mother had Alzheimer's disease, and through the years I worked on many pieces that were about the disease and how it affected my mother and dad. On my mother's figures, I made the backs of them just a texture that's very confusing, just a texture and a dark color, because perhaps that's what's in their mind half of the time, or most of the time, towards the end of what the disease does as it takes over. I keep one of these figures in the studio with me to keep me company, because it's nice to have my mom around. I have probably always been a feminist without using that term, because even as a young person, I always thought I was as created equal as any man, and I always felt that I could be whoever I wanted to be. I was raised that way, not to make a difference. I didn't realize that I wasn't a first-class citizen until some things happened to me later in life. My luck of having children and having to do the wash. I started to look at the lint filter because the dryer was interrupting my painting all the time, and I noticed that the lint on the filter was extremely beautiful, so I started saving that lint in plastic bags, and I'd look at it and think, oh, this is even better than what I'm painting. I know lint pretty well.
Well, I can't argue with you there. How does the process work? You go and you get the lint out of the dryer?
I take the lint and form it into...
Is that where you find most of it, in the dryer?
It's primarily dryer lint. That's what I started with, dryer lint. You peel it off the screen.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, right. I didn't know if you did your own wash.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, that little trap in there where they say
That's
remove
right.
this lint every 6 months or something like that? I don't know.
And I used to collect the lint from all of my children, and then when they'd get special lint after they moved out and married and had children, they sent me their special lint, as do most of my friends. I have no idea who sent this wonderful blue lint to me. It's so airy that I can't even imagine what they got it from, because it's got so much synthetic in it. But it does look like cotton candy. Sometimes I forget, sometimes I remember exactly who sent it to me. Like this. And my friends who sent this lint, I saw them over the weekend, and they had another box of lint for me out in the car when we were together, but I said I still was working with the lint they'd sent me last time. So these are from their new towels. And I can't imagine what kind of towels make such great lint. And there's one person who sends lint to me, and the lint looks like a fossil. So her lint screen, her lint trap, is a different shape than any we've ever seen before. It's quite beautiful. Okay, I think that looks better with just too many leaves. Let's get plenty of that glue under there. It may not be deep enough.
Most of the time what I do is I invite you in with all this nice softness. And then when you're inside, you begin to realize there's something diabolical going on. Why did I wait? Why did I always hesitate? Times long past became today, but safe within these walls I'd stay. Sometimes I'd begin to hope, and then I'd find I couldn't cope. With inner turmoil I would wait and leave my life to fickle fate. I should have tried to spread my wings and flown with courage and done some things. But here I hid and was alone. I never even used my phone to touch the world outside of me and grasp the joy to set me free.
I think, yes, this is the first performance I did with my tap shoes. No lessons, none whatsoever. And that was a Brooks College talent show, I guess. I was trying to show that the teachers were as brave as the kids, so. Farmer photos. Slater is an artist with her 1,000 pounds of lint sitting on top of one of the bales. There was someone in the newspaper who had 1,000 pounds of lint. This 1,000 pounds of lint was recycled bedspreads and bathrobes that I could use for walls and floor, and made it possible for me to use the dryer lint then as focus points in my installations. So the first real installation I did about my mother's Alzheimer's disease was the one of her swatting flies in the garden. And I'd say something to her about it. Mother, why are you out here swatting flies? Oh, I'm not swatting flies. And so the denial was there. These are for my Aunt Sissy and Uncle Bob. Nice bright flowers. And this is the rose, like the one I placed in my mother's hand at her funeral. I put them in her hand in the coffin, these miniature roses. So, tiny but special. My father planted these azaleas in my front yard for me. He was still able to do that. He was such a great gardener. And not many flowers right now, but I think they'll be just fine for my dad. Flowers for my father. And somehow this is not being kept so nice, so there's no vase left here. So that's for my dad. And this for my mother. But they're not here. So, and I won't be here.
I wouldn't be who I am as an artist if I didn't have the life I've had. But I've also had to learn that humor tempers tragedy. And the use of humor is always important in my work and in my life. I think the first thing I should correct is my nose. I never liked my nose. And maybe if it weren't so big, I'd have gotten the part in the play I wanted when I was in college. Somehow it seems to me that correcting this nose might make some changes in my life.
I'm making flowers for this candy box, and I'm repairing this entire piece for my cousin who just had the candy loose and did not have it in a box or a composition. So it's about 30 years old and it was time to make it better. When I was teaching here in Long Beach, I very often stopped to visit with my parents, and they would be sitting in their living room watching the 6 o'clock news. My mother always had a smile for me, and she would be out through the day. We'd have that conversation. Yes, she was out. She might remember what she had for lunch, but she can't remember where she went. And then I would turn to my dad and I'd ask him questions. And my dad was not wearing his hearing aids, which he should have been wearing. And so no matter what I asked him, he always responded with, "Oh yes, your mother was out today." And then I would say to him, "Oh, and did you eat the chicken that Jean cooked for you?" And he would say again, "Oh yes, your mother was out today." And then finally I would just kiss them goodbye and go home. And as I drive home, I very often cried, but I knew that they were safe for the night because after the 6 o'clock news, they would go to bed. I was on the freeway and suddenly the entire living room scene and all their furniture and everything seemed to appear to me out of the blue, made out of lint. I knew I needed to do that piece about the experience of the 6 o'clock news visit with my parents. This little frog that I had in the studio, it was a desiccated frog I had found in the garden. And I thought of it as sort of the angel of death. So this was a very, very sad time for me. And then this final picture of her, the last one I took, I sensed that she was frightened And I had, again, this angel of death, this desiccated frog, approaching her. And as I said, I really thought that she was frightened. Unfortunately for me, too, I felt so close to her that I sort of went into her mind. Never have I felt such fear. And then my mother was gone. The angel of death leaps, bounds across the earth, catching us unaware of relentless decay. It sees its way and stretches to capture the path and those caught in it. It means no harm, no more so than life itself. To the frog of death, the way is natural. The seismic shudder to its nerves rushes to create a void for those taking the path and those upon it. It is but a gift on its way to glory. I am not afraid of getting Alzheimer's disease myself. At this point, I can worry about it if it does happen or I feel like it's happening. But everyone in the family who did get Alzheimer's got it much younger than I am now, and so I think it's going to bypass me. In the meantime, I still do as much as possible to avoid it by eating well, walking every day, and I think being in the studio helps keep my brain going in the right direction.
We're here at the 3rd annual Fly a Kite for Slater event. This event is to celebrate the joy that Slater brought. She was about doing and enjoying. Take what you got, make something out of it, do something beautiful. I always say that for Slater, she didn't think outside the box. There literally was no box.
Whenever Slater had a show, I was always there. She was unafraid to try anything. Lint is such an ephemeral material. I miss her so much because I'm still collecting lint and thinking, oh no, I guess I have to throw it away because there's no Slater to give it to.
My mom was sort of a magical person. She gave me that eye to see things differently. My mom had an affinity for the clouds and the sky and the stars and flying. This is everything that she would love about being outside and enjoying the wind and the air.
Slater was really at the center of things because every year in the summer, she would have a wonderful get together for all the artists. So she's very, very much missed by the community.